Testosterone, we have a problem.
This is Outside the Manosphere, where two guys with zero credentials dive past the cliches of masculinity and try to become better friends by actually talking to each other. It's weirdly hard, but we're doing it anyway. Join us.
Welcome to Outside the Manosphere. I'm Skip.
And I'm Carlos.
How's your week been, Carlos? I've been dying to ask you about your new job.
So I've just come off, this is my second day off. I've come off a 6-day work week. 3 of them were orientation, but it was, full 8 hours.
Yeah.
And 3 of them were, they called them like mentoring type shifts where I was with 2 other paramedics, but I was like in the paramedic gear. And I looked the part. Yeah, dude, it's been a hurricane of information and new protocols. And yeah, at first it was really hard. And then after my 3rd shift, I'm like, okay, I got this. I found my rhythm again. You know what I mean? It's been quite a while since I've been on the trucks.
So you did the orientation part, and then you're kind of doing the driver's training bit. Like, how are you reacting to all those parts? Like, how does it feel to be back in the ambulance and all that stuff?
So the first day, I went on there with more anxiety than I had even when I was a student. I was just like, and the physical pressure I felt in my face. I'm sure if I had taken my blood pressure, I'm sure it was like through the roof. Full of anxiety, just completely insecure, not confident. Like I was not good. Like I didn't feel well. And we had a bunch of calls, and they were not super serious calls, but there was blood and that kind of thing. But yeah, so by the end of it, I felt better. By the end of my 2nd shift, it was a night shift, so I worked overnight. It was not super busy at all, and I was at the station that I trained at during my preceptorship, which is when I'm on the trucks as a student under 2 other paramedics. And I think just the familiarity of the place kind of got me back into the rhythm of it all. And I just felt so much better by the second night. Like I was like questioning what I was doing. I'm like, crap, man, like I'm not going to be able to do this after during the first shift. But after the second one, I'm like, okay, no, I was being like hysterical the first shift.
Sure.
And so I felt tons better. And by the end of my 3rd shift, I was fine. The 3rd shift, we didn't get any calls. It was just another night shift because we live
just watching Netflix in the truck, or
yeah. I mean, I try not to do that too much because like I gotta freshen up on a lot of things, skills wise, and there's new protocols I gotta get used to, and that's actually was my big problem is that like I kind of went into it thinking like, no, I need to understand how the scheduling works. I need to understand this line I got to call if this thing occurs. I need to understand this because I didn't learn any of that in school. This is just strictly company policies.
Sure.
And so I went into it thinking like I need to know all this stuff, and I don't know any of it, and I'm not qualified. You know what I mean? So once I realized like, no, this is like my first day. Like I'm learning this stuff now. I felt, I felt better. So I did my 3rd shift was pretty chill, but again, I kind of needed it, I think, just to like cool down. And I'll have my first, like full-on paramedic shift in another couple of days. I'll be on probation for like X amount of hours until I've, shown that I'm competent and that I'm not gonna like, kill anybody. But I'll be like one of the 2 paramedics on a truck from here on out.
So I was joking about Netflix, but like, what do you guys do when there's no calls?
There's always a point during the night. So I should say like the area that I'm in is rural by like Prague standards. Like there's the town I'm in is really small, but like we cover like a larger bubble with like other towns. So during the downtime at night anyway, a lot of people after a certain hour, everyone just kind of like kicks their feet up and goes to sleep because like for my shifts, I think I got like in the past 2 days, I got like 6 hours of sleep, like just
Oh, wow.
For myself, not like outside of work too. I mean, you adapt to it, and like your brain is switched on because of the urgency of the situation. But like, it kind of throws you off. So people just, I think I'm handling it a lot better than I would have. I think, or than I thought I would have, because when I was a young person, I worked overnight for a long time, and I'd get like 2 hours here, 2 hours there, and that was like my regular life. Like that's how I lived, and I don't know that I could keep that up long term now.
Yeah.
But luckily, the shifts are, if you're full time, it's only 2 days, 2 nights, 2 days, 2 nights, so it's not that big of a deal. You recover by the next shift. So yeah, what's going on with you, man? I did a lot of talking about. I've had a really busy week, so
Yeah.
I've been busy. But what's going on with you?
No, I have not had a busy week. My school was doing theme week last week, which is like the whole school stops having classes and they like do some like money or recycling or people of the world or something, and they all do projects, and I don't work on those weeks. And my class was also having their AP exams, so I wouldn't have worked anyway for some of those days. So work was kind of a nothing. Our older son is on a field trip to Italy.
Oh,
Yeah, they left Friday night at 9 p.m. and they sleep on the bus. So and then they're back like next Sunday. So it's a nice long field trip, but several days I think, or at least 2 overnights are on the bus. And he didn't seem to know where in Italy they were going or what they were doing, but but whatever. He's 14 and he's gonna go have some fun.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's quiet around here. My younger son, they have their like school pageant tonight, where they usually get up, and it's always like a little too long and fun, but then there's some parts that are just trying, and then there's some parts that are just, in the Czech way, so inappropriate, like just
yeah.
deeply sexual songs for kids that they're like, why are they doing this?
Yeah, that's funny.
Like
I guess they're doing it for the parents on kind of like a wink and a nod sort of thing.
maybe. I think a lot of times they don't realize, because like I don't know, there was one of the Grease songs my kid did a couple years, like his class did, like in kindergarten or something, and it's like it's the one where like, did she go all the way and things like that, and it's like a bunch of kindergartners. It's and like second grade girls will get up and do some kind of weird dance that you're like, ooh, this is an odd choice. And there's always like one girl that gets up and does like a 10-minute comedy monologue that, of course, Jess and I are just like looking at the lights because we can't possibly understand it or keep up with it. But yeah, it'll be fun. And then he's sleeping over at his friends tonight, so we have the abode to ourselves for once.
You guys have any plans, or what are you gonna do?
Yeah, we're gonna go out to dinner and then nothing.
Just this is an envy question. Where are you going to dinner?
We were talking about going to Mexican. That's kind of our
That's the envy that I was expecting to hear.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah. That's kind of our go-to because it's just always good.
There's one place around here which is like inexplicably culturally different. It's like interior Mexican, and oh man, it's so good. But like, there's not a lot of stuff around here, and
Yeah.
this place is like really rural. I don't know how. I mean, I hope they're doing well, and I hope they stay open.
Well, and one other thing, I've been you kind of been my guiding light. I want to tell you.
I like what I'm hearing. I like what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
yeah. When we first started talking about doing a podcast, and like the first thing you said was, I just want it to be something that brings me joy. Like
Mhm.
that's something that I've really held close to my chest. And there's some times where you start going somewhere, I'm like, but is this bringing you joy? I'm thinking in my head.
I'm so
Um,
happy you do that, because like, yeah, I'll go into the weeds of like, no, this has to be this thing, and
Yeah. And I'm in the process of just kind of like reconsidering a lot of things in my life and trying to figure out, like, we've worked really hard. We're not well off, but we've worked really hard to become financially stable, and I've
mhm.
got a little bit of wiggle room now, and I'm trying to think of like, okay, what is it that would make me happy? Cuz it's definitely, a problem that we're in the bottom of the U. I don't know if you know the bottom of the U, but like studies say like you're happy when you're young and you're happy when you're old, but middle age is just kind of crap. It's
Right.
so your happiness is like a graph of a U. And Jess and I are both kind of deeply in that. It's just there's kids, there's work, you're trying to worry about your retirement and college and all these things, and we're in a place where we're not in danger, and we were both in danger, like financially, for so long that it's just sort of this deep mindset. Like I don't know how many times in college or after college when I moved here, I'd be like, all right, I have $17 in the bank. I'm gonna put $3 in so I can withdraw a 20,
Yeah,
and just till my next paycheck. And it was just really hard for a long time, and that kind of stays with you. But
yeah.
we're in a position with a little more wiggle room, and I was happy for a long time. And I'm not like I love my family. There's a lot of things about my life I love, but I'm not generally always as happy as I could be and as happy as I was. And I'd like to re-engineer my life. So I'm taking my inspiration from you, and I'd like to ask you some more questions about that later. But yeah, I'm trying to think in different ways that you've been encouraging me to do.
That's the key, man. You don't have to believe any of the shit that I'm telling you, but like just try to think differently. That's really that's the most important thing. You start thinking,
Yeah.
and it sounds so stupid because it's just such a like it almost is dismissive to say, oh, just think positively. But like that's all you have to do, really. That's all you have to do is think positively and catch the negativity as it comes and just like stop it. You know what I mean? Like an example would be, and I'm sure I've said this in previous recordings, but like I would just be constantly fighting with people in my head, like going over completely imaginary
Mm.
arguments that just didn't
Yeah.
happen. That didn't happen, and like this is like, and just like picking fights with people in my head,
Yeah.
and I never recognized how unhealthy that was. And that happens occasionally now, and I'm like, whoa, yeah, stop that, and I stop it, and then and
Yeah.
you change directions. And once you stop it enough, like it stops happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like it's a big shift, and it's kind of foundational, like not just the arguments in your head, but like the negativity. You catch it, you can't move forward if you're constantly in a state of negativity. You can't.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really helpful just to be aware of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I've been negative as much. I mean, I'm definitely negative about myself. And I used to be, when I was younger, I was like, I am the greatest. You know, I'm fantastic, I'm talented, I'm smart, I'm good looking. And now I'm kind of like, well, I'm all right. And, I'm a little soft in the middle and this and that. So that's definitely a place that I'm negative, that I'm trying. And that's probably the hardest place because I was also raised with that negativity. But I think I was just more kind of resigned to, like this kind of utilitarian, like this is what I'm trying to do. A very, very goal oriented.
Mhm.
I've always been really goal oriented, and to the extent where that was how I was trying to get my happiness. And I want to get back to where I was when I got to the Czech Republic, which was I was I was doing things and I had some goals, but I was just kind of enjoying life more. It's hard with an 8-year-old, a 14-year-old, and adults, and like it's really hard to find the thing that you can all enjoy doing that's not super expensive. But we were brainstorming a little bit about it yesterday, and hopefully Jess and I will be turning our happiness boat around.
You know, if I were in your position, I would somehow incorporate. This isn't me giving you advice. This is me like
Hmm.
imagining what I would do in your situation. I would try incorporating that sort of positivity into the children themselves. That way, everyone's working together. It's not just you and Jess trying to figure it out. It's like the kids help.
Yeah.
Like, because your oldest, he's old enough to catch all that stuff too, and be like, "Hey, Dad, you're being negative, or you're thinking in a way that you shouldn't be," and they can help you. You know what I mean? And like instilling that in them while they're so young. I mean, that's just you're going to break that cycle of like any kind of unhappiness that they might encounter. You know what I mean? Or they'll be able to handle it in a way that you maybe didn't.
That generational improvement. I don't know. You're watching Last of Us?
Just finished
Are
the
you
season
watching it?
finale yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, okay, we haven't watched the season finale yet because we've been watching it with my son and he's in Italy. But yeah, that not like the penultimate episode or the one before that, the bookend arc of that episode where we start off, if and spoilers if you haven't watched it, then turn it off for a second. But where we start off with Joel when he was young, and where his brother gets in trouble, and he's talking to his dad, and he's like, "You're not going to hurt him," and the dad kind of like tears up. Instead of like hitting him, he tears up and he gets him a beer, and he's like, "I'm doing a little better than my dad." and I want you to do a little better than me. And like that's kind of like the first thing I think of when you say that is like we and there was another podcast recently that I was listening to, and it was a guy talking about men and kind of how bad we've just kind of generally we've gotten really bad at relationships for a lot of reasons. But he was talking about therapy and men going to therapy and crying, learning to cry so their kids don't have to. And
Right.
that's just like, man, it hits home. We've got to fix ourselves so all the crappy things we've felt in our lives, our kids don't have to deal with that, you know?
Hmm.
And I think I want I like we were talking about before, I want this to be a deeply joyful experience for us. But there is a growing part of me that also wants to be like, yeah, this is something I want to help out with. You know, I think it's something that we can, you know, we're not going to solve it. We're not going to do it, but it's something that we can model a little bit and be the guys that are a little brave and vulnerable or whatever, and you know the manosphere can call us gay or whatever, but you know, go out there and do it and show people it's okay and it's not so bad.
I totally agree. And as we've discussed before, yeah, like being closer, buddies is number one. Keeping it joyful is also number one. But yeah, I think this is a model. I'd like to be a model. I'm not that I'm like, follow me, men. Like I'll show you the way. I've got my flaws as well,
Yeah.
and I'm sure plenty of ladies can point out all of them. But yeah, I mean, I'm a man. You're a man, and we can be sensitive and expressive and emotional and honest, and it's not something to be embarrassed about. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
And again, as we've said before, a lot of these younger guys, they're like, "What are you talking about? It's fine." You know what I mean? Because they're already there. They're already
Yeah.
there. It's like we're almost the last generation. I think that I guess it's regional because there are
I
areas
was
that, yeah, there are
yeah.
areas where there's still kind of, father to son is passing down this sort of restrictive way of being, and but like I think in these bigger cities and stuff, they're all over it, and they'll be fine, But there are quite a few that are going to be men our age with the exact same obstacles, I think, emotional obstacles.
Yeah, and I am really like, you know, there's a lot of guys out there that I see, and so like Trump's a good example. Trump's, you know, not to get too political, but Trump's like this guy that's all about machismo and trying to get people to kowtow to him and be an alpha and all this bullshit. And I genuinely don't like the guy. I would go so far as to say that I hate him. Um,
Mhm.
but more as we've gotten through this and we're thinking about the manosphere and all this stuff and we're moving, I feel a lot more sad for him because I what's like really clearly going on, at least in my mind, is like this is a guy that doesn't know how to feel connection. He needs to be revered. He needs to be in the spotlight because it's the only way that he knows how to get these kind of positive reinforcements because he doesn't know how to do it in his life. And because, you know, his dad didn't love him or whatever, or if he did love him, he didn't show him. And so like I can hate him at the same time just look at him and feel incredibly sad for that life.
I have felt sorry for him for a very long time. And yeah, I mean, without getting super political,
Yeah.
I don't even like saying this, but like I have expressed hate for him as well.
Hmm.
And I don't know any other human being that I've ever felt that way about. And but I do pity him because I see a
Right.
person who just has stopped growing. He's never or he's growing gnarly in a really negative direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you can argue no, he has grown. And I from his last presidency to this one, I'd say he has grown, but in the worst way. Yeah, taking a hard left turn here. I wanted to go back to negativity and the way we're thinking.
Mhm.
I don't know what you had said, but you were talking about. Oh yes. Living sort of hand to mouth your whole life. I've been exactly the same way. I mean, super impoverished as a child,
Yeah.
and then just struggling all the way up until I'm where you guys are. I think Jody and I are where you guys are now. I think where we've stabilized, and a financial burden is kind of off our shoulders for the time being, at least. And I'm grateful for that. I recognize how lucky we are. And
Mhm.
we're not rich either by any stretch of the imagination, but we're not like desperate anymore. You know what I mean? But as you said, that is a hard mindset to shake. And I think it can be summed up as scarcity. You're in a scarce mindset. You're always going to be like looking to the horizon for what's coming or looking behind you for what's approaching you from behind. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I view that as negative. And Jody catches me all the time. Like we're talking about money. She's like, don't be scarce. You know what I mean? Don't think in a scarce way,
Yeah.
because I regard that as negative. She regards that as negative. And I think that's as significant as catching that argument in your head that you're having. Like if you're thinking like, well, we can't afford this, and what if we do this and we can't do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, you have to be smart with your finances, and you have to like not go gamble it away or buy that big screen TV just because you don't want to think with a scarce
Yeah.
mindset. But you shouldn't live in scarcity in your mind. You know what I mean? Abundance is another one that gets tossed around in these like woo circles. Yeah, you live in abundance, and that whether that's an abundance of love, an abundance of joy, an abundance of finances, that's where you need to be. That's where your mind needs to be,
Yeah.
and it comes to you. I mean, I don't. It's that's where a belief sets in, but it does. Like in my experience, these past couple of years have just been an avalanche of good fortune for me, and that's not me bragging. That's not me like
Yeah.
saying, "Well, I can do it, you can do it," sort of thing. It's just I've been so lucky. We've been so lucky, and I attribute a lot of that to just deflecting negativity.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the only thing I'd add is, we talked about trigger warnings and things, and I think there's a lot of kind of masculine thoughts of, but just get over shit, just get over
Right.
things. But I think this is not something like, I don't really have like any kind of trauma from being poor. It's just like, it's a pattern, it's a set thing that it's very hard to break from. It's very hard when you've like been on a budget of $2 a day for food to think, oh, I can enjoy this without feel this, kind of more expensive meal or something like that without feeling guilty. I Jess talks about sometimes like she'd go out with her parents and they'd buy dinner at some nice place and it'd just be for one meal. And she had kids to take care of and they'd get the bill and it would be like her grocery bill for a couple weeks, and it felt so insulting and it felt so bad. And just getting like that's something that just gets ingrained in you. It's
Yeah.
something that like it's really hard. You can't just tell people to just get over some things. Like
Right.
there's a mental thing. It's like if you're injured, it's not something that just gets better. Just that, like you're just programmed. Your body's like, this is a threat reaction. Like this is about life and death. And whether it's poverty or physical things, like those things you don't just shake off. Your brain is made to not shake them off.
Right.
And like there's even things like physiologically, like I don't know, have you ever heard of the Dutch hunger winter?
No, I haven't.
So this is a fun science thing, but like so there was a period in Holland where there was a lot of poverty and famine, and there were epigenetic changes, the kind that we didn't used to believe in mothers that had kids. They held fat more because their body was reacting to a famine that their mothers went through.
Hmm.
And it was like, well, we don't know when we're going to starve, so we're holding on to fat.
Right.
And so like there's these things that are just it's not even like always something you've been through. Like you have these generational traumas that like people want to just be like, just change, and it's it's just not that easy. it,
Right.
it
Right.
does it does kind of take these long concerted efforts and conscious thought.
Conscious thought. That's yes. It does require effort, but I think if you're not conscious of it, then you're never going to overcome any of it. You reminded me too. I've also come to the conclusion that there we have sort of repeating traumas within our families. Even like the amount of like fuck up things I have done that my father did the exact same one. It's remarkable, and my mother too. I'm sure in some cases, but I see my father as we're all flawed, obviously, but I see him as an extremely flawed person who's made a lot of like very tragic mistakes. And I've seen myself going in the same direction as him in certain ways, and catching it again. You catch the, oh man, I'm
Hmm.
doing exactly what he was doing, and if I can just be aware of it, I can break that cycle. You know what I mean? And it's been illuminating to see, like, oh yeah, I always this. I don't mean to shit on my dad or anything. We don't have
Yeah.
like a super close relationship, but he was largely absent growing up. And I always said, like, oh, he didn't teach me anything. He didn't teach me anything. And he didn't really, like, like, he doesn't know anything. But the thing is, he doesn't know how to fix a car, for example. He doesn't know how to repair or drywall a wall. Like, he doesn't know any of that stuff. So he didn't teach me
Yeah.
any of that stuff. And, but I always was like, oh, he just didn't, like, he just didn't do it. He was, at a bar with his buddies or whatever. But I've kind of changed my tune. And then again, this is also a perspective thing. I look at the way he's lived his life and the way he's ending his life, because he's not healthy right now.
Yeah.
Physically, not out of his own doing. He has Parkinson's and
Sure.
anyway. But I look at the way he's lived and the way he's dying, and I take that as the lesson that he taught me. Is I don't want to live the way he lived, and I don't want to die the way he is headed. So yeah, I don't mean to be a downer,
No.
but it's important. Like I think you recognize, the genetic example that you've made. I think that I think those markers also flip on the way you react to things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty well documented that we kind of live through patterns in ourselves, and we also carry out the patterns that we've seen played out in front of us, parents and stuff like that. And I don't remember what it is, but Jess and I were watching something. It seems like years ago at this point, probably, and it's just kind of lived on us, and where it was just like we're all just kind of dragged through our parents' wars or wounds or whatever, and it feels really on brand. Like I look at my actions and my behavior, and I look at my parents, and there's some things where it's like, yeah, it's the same thing. And there's other things where it's like the exact opposite, because I was just like real conscious of, well, I'm never going to do that. And there's a lot of me that recognizes those things in myself and is like, I wish I could moderate some of that more, because it's always like I'm either going to do the same thing or the total opposite, and there no gray area. And like there are things with gray areas, but it's sometimes hard to moderate just because of those experiences and that programming and those patterns. Yeah. Well, in any case, I wanted to just reiterate to, you're kind of being my guiding light right now, and I am trying to think of these slow. And it's not like I've never thought of these things before, but you've really been kind of the guardrail that's keeping me on track with some of these things and reminding me and not letting me jut out of the pattern that I like to be in. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you telling me, because I'm taking that as a compliment, and I think that largely people don't do that. You know what I mean? They don't say, I mean, any more than like, oh, you look nice today, sort of thing. Even that, you know what I mean? Like, it's nice to hear that something you've said is affecting somebody in a positive way. So I appreciate you being honest about that. Hey, but hey, you too. Like, it's you've thrown my own advice back at me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm I'm not doing what I told Skip he should be doing. But I had noticed you kind of latched onto that idea, and I was kind of quietly pleased how you're really thinking about joy. Yeah, I had noticed it. I just wasn't sure, like, how much you're thinking about it.
Well, it really goes well with I tend to think in like sort of large arcs and principles. And it's like, okay, if the principle is joy, and then everything gets held up to that,
Yeah.
like, and it's like, okay, this is how I'm organizing this. This is the thing that's important here. I tend to be pretty good at staying on those kind of things if it makes sense to me. If it's like a logical thing to just be like, this is what we're doing, and it's something that I think is just generally really hard for people, but like it's something I tend to be pretty good at saying, like, is this serving this purpose,
Right.
and not getting bogged down in some of the things that when you get to actually doing things, you always get pulled off in 1,000 different directions, and difficulties and anxieties and annoyances and little problems that you have to solve and stuff. But if you keep in the back of your head that kind of that guiding light, then it helps you stay on track and also ignore some of those things that don't really matter.
Right. And I think like the joy arc should be I don't want to say foundational again, but I can't think of a better word, a foundational one. So if you make that the baseline, all the other little arcs are going to just grow from that. You know what I mean? Like I think for myself as a new paramedic, I can attach. I'm going to be not specific here, but if I attach some sort of guiding principle to be a paramedic, it's not going to be joy because like it could be,
Right.
I guess, but like joy's already there as a guiding principle for me. But now I'll have this more narrow one for this time while I'm in the on the job sort of thing. Yeah, I feel like having joy as like a baseline arc that you're describing is, I mean, that's you can only go up from there. All right, Skip. Well, moving away from this little love fest we've been having, you sent me a very funny clip as Communicate from the Manosphere, and I'd like for you to let us all know what it's about.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. And there was it was attached to a little video, but basically it's this GOP MAGA congressman, Tim Burchett, and he's talking about how he doesn't drink from a straw that's for women in his house, and it's just like one of these crazy idea that enters this masculine manosphere. It's like being like, well, I don't use spoons because they're feminine shaped. Like, I eat my cereal with forks.
I slurp.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't understand why that's emasculating to drink from a straw. Other than I guess maybe it's like some semi dick shaped. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that could be.
Well, and it feels like one of those things that the manosphere does this all the time, where they just pick some weird thing, and I think a lot of it is like this thing that they do all the time with this alpha posturing, and it's about getting people to follow you and seeing how many people you can get to go along with you and just believe this batshit crazy thing. And it's funny because like the people following you are submitting to this ridiculous thing. It's in their own version of masculinity. It's the least masculine thing you could do is to just copy this stupid idea because some dude said it.
Right.
Like it's not individualistic. It's not indicative of anything except being not the alpha if you follow it. But it's just such, I don't know, it's like this manipulative mind game crap.
Well,
Uh,
there's that whole like I don't know if you wanted to bring it up at some point today, but there's that whole article I sent you about the that Russian Orthodox Church and how it's attracting so many young men.
yeah.
It's all centered around like manliness. Like I'm floored by that. Like I don't understand how that's. I guess real quickly I'll say it was a some guy in Texas. I mean, it's an established church here in the U.S. or in the United States, but it's Russian in origin, and I don't remember all the details. But like the main pastor that they were interviewing or discussing in this article, it was a BBC article.
BBC, yeah.
Yeah, he's in Texas, and he's got a beard, and he's like buff, and they showed him like working out and how he works out with all the guys, and it's like talking about traditional masculine roles and like what. Oh, I should have had it open. Give me 1 second. I'm going to look it up. The article is called "Young U.S. Men Are Joining Russian Churches Promising, quote, absurd levels of manliness." And they talk about, gender roles and how, like one guy, they quote him, he's a software engineer, and he says that he felt empty inside. There's a hole in his heart. He believes society has been very harsh on men, saying that they're constantly wrong and that he's being criticized, or not he, but men are being criticized. Well, there's the Freudian slip there. Like he feels criticized
Right.
for wanting to be the breadwinner and to support a stay-at-home wife, and I guess that kind of he's regarding that as a toxic relationship, or the society is regarding it as toxic these days.
Yeah,
Um,
Jess and I both had the same response to that, which is like, it if it's a choice that you both make together, that's fine. Like
right,
it's totally okay. If you're forcing your wife not to do that to be with you, that's power and control, and it is very toxic.
right.
But like it all has to do with how you go about those things. It's not necessarily those things that are terrible in and of themselves. Yeah, we both kind of were like, bah, it's
Mm.
nuts.
And a couple of examples of that, and this is just like me getting super personal now because
Mhm.
I've talked about my father. Now I'm going to talk about my grandfathers, but my maternal grandfather, I don't know the details behind it, but like when he married my grandmother, he wouldn't let her drive anymore. So like
Mm,
all my life, she didn't know how to drive. She'd forgotten how to drive, I guess, or she didn't have a license or whatever. And then on my and it goes way worse than that. You know, there's tons of
yeah.
stuff. But and then on my paternal side, my grandmother was a violinist and a pianist, and my paternal grandfather, who died when I was like 2, so I don't have any memories of him, wouldn't let her play the violin, or I probably not the piano. I think they had a piano in the house just for like show, but like my aunts and uncles didn't even know she played the violin their whole lives until their father died, and she just blossomed.
Blossomed,
Yeah,
yeah.
she became like a known violin teacher, piano teacher at the in the town. She became a teacher in the college. There's like newspaper articles of her. There's interviews with her, and she just and was really happy woman, and would never say a negative thing about her husband. But yeah, he wouldn't let her do that, and for like 30 years, she just had all that knowledge in her head, and yeah. Anyway, the point the reason I'm saying that is because things like this Russian Orthodox Church is becoming popularized. All that's coming back. Like that
Hmm.
sort of mindset is on the upswing, and I don't know. It's just good to be aware of it at the very least.
We actually have a term for all this in our household. You know how the right is all crazy about Sharia law, which is like the Muslims having theological law and all this stuff. We call it Shania law. And I and I don't know how Shania Twain feels about all these things, but it just feels kind of on brand for like, this is the country music crowd doing
Right.
Shania law, and they're doing the exact same things. They're basically trying to exact Sharia law, but for an equally archaic woman hating view.
But I think there's a danger also in just calling it. I get that the Shania law is funny in
Yeah.
this country, and I think primarily that's like the audience, but it's not just anymore. You know what I mean? It's like
No, no.
it's gone to the left as well, and yeah, there's a lot of guys out there that are feeling disenfranchised for no fucking reason at all, and they're reacting to it, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's startling and it's uncomfortable, and who knows? Hopefully, this is just a trend that's bubbling up and it's going to die back down again.
Well, you actually sent me 3 things this week, and all of them I thought broadly had the same sort of message. One of them was this article, and another one was guys calling one of their friends to say goodnight, which was just fantastic, and I think we should come back to that. But this third one was this New York Times article by Sam Graham Felsen, and it's called Where Have All My Deep Male Friendships Gone? And they're all about, writ large, what I took away from this is they're all about manliness versus happiness, or people that are unhappy. And when we look at happiness, the thing that drives happiness the most, I think, that's the most within our control is connection to other people. And there's this tug of war in all these articles between manliness and connection. And but connection standing in for happiness. People are unhappy and they're looking for ways to connect with other guys because of manliness. But at the same time, manliness is the definition that they're using for manliness is part of why they'll never be able to connect. And they're getting kind of these shallow connections of like, I mean, I've worked out with guys and had good connections with them, but it's not the kind of deep connection that we're craving.
Right.
It's not the kind of deep connection that you and I are trying to forge.
Right.
It's like we do this thing, we're a certain type of buddy. And like one of the things that this article is mentioning is that men used to be going to other men for friendship.
Hmm.
And now because of kids and relationships, and we don't marry for money and things like that anymore. We marry for love. We find a lot of that in our wives, and then we have kids and we get just too busy and our male friendships fall apart. And that's kind of what the crux of some of this article is starting from. But then it kind of goes on and talks about, in addition to not having time for these relationships, we're also set up by our definitions of manliness not to manicure these things and not to take care of them and not to have these deep relationships that we really crave. That these guys are going into the Russian Orthodox Church because they literally just have no fucking clue how to connect with people. So
Right.
they're doing it through bananas, ridiculous. I mean, like they're advertising it as absurd, like absurd levels of manliness.
Yeah.
It's absurd's right in the name, you know. And there's not going to be any amount of weight you can lift with somebody that's going to fill the hole inside of you. You're going to feel accomplished. You're going to have some nice things that come out of that, but you're still going to feel lonely when you go home. And like he talked about the Bill and Ted, the Bill and Ted scene,
The movie Bill and
and
Ted's Excellent Adventure. Yeah.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Yeah, do you remember that?
Oh, dude. Yeah. I used to watch that a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, walk us through that scene that he talks about, because I thought that that was a really good illustration of this.
Yeah. So in the movie, it's a time travel movie. So these two like bozo kids in the 80s, they go back in time. On an adventure, and one of them, he's in like a suit of armor, and he like falls down some stairs, and he appears to be like run through with a sword, and so the other friend thinks that he's dead, and he has this emotional reaction in his character's sort of goofy way, and then the guy like comes out of the room inexplicably, like he fell out of his suit of armor, which is impossible. That's kind of the absurdity of the joke. So they like embrace, and while they're hugging each other, they both kind of realize that they're being vulnerable and holding each other, and they push each other away, and at the same time say "fag." And it's for its time, like it was a funny thing, I suppose. But it's an illustration of how, like, I think the guy beautifully expressed it in the article that you can be close, just not too close as a man.
Right. Yeah, no, and this is I've been thinking about this idea a lot since then. And I remember, and I feel some sympathy with these guys that are saying some of this stuff. Like I don't feel sympathy for needing to force your wife to be a traditional person or whatever. Like women can make their choice. You can have a good relationship. You can be as manly as you want, whatever. But if the core thing is that you're feeling alone and dejected, like I remember when I was young, and I had friends and I had a job and I wasn't like at odds with society. But I remember working in an office and going home and wondering how long it had been since I had just touched another human being,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't in a relationship at the time. And like even with friends, you're not, as a man, conditioned to show physical affection. And I think women are cooler about it.
Right.
And
Well, they're not gonna be accused of being gay for
right,
like showing your physical affection for somebody else.
right. And I remember feeling that hole in my life. And like I said, I wasn't at odds with anybody. I wasn't at odds with society. I wasn't hated. I had some friends that I didn't always hang out with, but I was hanging out, semi regularly, but we were just like, we'd hang out and stuff. And I remember feeling that hole and thinking, God, I could go literally for months without touching another human being. Certainly on purpose, not like touch fingers handing change back or something like
Right.
that. So I get that profound kind of loneliness that these guys are getting. And like I took from this, and I was thinking about my own life, and my older son is 14. He comes in at night and sometimes he lays across his mom, and he's like 6'4". And so he's just too heavy, and we're both like, you can't do that, you can't do that. And my wife and I were talking the other day, and she's like, but I do want him to be able to cuddle with me. I do want, like, I don't have that kind of relationship with my parents, and it is a hole. Like there is a
Mm-hmm.
hole from not having the kind of relationship I'd like with family members. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, you know what? I made a goal for myself, and obviously he's not home this week, but I want to, and this is going to sound weird, and Congressman Tim Burchett isn't going to like this, but I want to, I want to like cuddle with my son while we
Yeah.
watch a movie or
Yeah.
something, and just be like, this is okay. This is okay. And I want to be able to hug you when I get older. I want it to not be weird. I want to be able to show affection. This is the same way that I do with my 8-year-old, because my 8-year-old cuddles up and it's cool. And I was looking back at old photos of times in my life when I was happy, not just like pouring through them, but some popped up. And one of the things that I noticed is like when I in a time in my life when I was happy, and I'm always like, I am kind of draped over other people, or they're draped over me, and we're all in contact. There's that closeness. It's not just like like we did talk about meaningful things, but there was also a physical closeness. And the fact that we're not allowed to do those things is, I think, something that's really broken that we need to like tackle.
We're not allowed to do them without being stigmatized as a pervert or a sexual deviant of some kind, you know?
Well, and even getting to that other video that you sent me, which was so funny, and it's just like guys calling their friends to say goodnight, which is an objectively weird thing to do.
You
If
know what?
that's not
I, I was thinking about it too. Like, to be fair, with the way some of these guys were reacting, like, if a female friend called me to be like, "Hey, I'm in bed and I just wanted to call and say goodnight," I'd be like, that's what does that mean exactly? Like,
yeah.
why, you know what I mean? So yeah, but yeah, it's apparently it's like this trend on TikTok right now that's so funny because these guys are just blindsided by their friends who are just, hey, I just want to call and say good night and sweet dreams, and they're like, what?
Well, they get a lot more vocal than that. Yeah.
They do. But across the board, they're all kind of reacting the same way. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
I got work tomorrow. Like, what are you calling me for?
Yeah. And swearing at them and being like, something's wrong with you. And like, and it's so funny because it's such a nothing gesture. And it is weird. Like, I'll admit, like it's legit not a normal thing, but it doesn't have to not be a normal thing. Like, there's nothing bad about it. And it would be kind of nice to just like be like, hey man, how's it going? Do you have a good day? I'm just hoping you have a nice night. I'm going to bed. Like, that's not a huge gesture. It's not wildly intimate. We don't need to like freak out about it. But it's funny the way that men react to it.
Yeah.
And like my wife and I were talking about like what would happen if she called one of her friends and they'd be like, "Oh, that's so nice." Like,
yeah. That's true. But you know what though? I was thinking about, like, how would I respond if, like, out of the blue you called me to say goodnight?
right.
And I would think it was weird for sure. I think these guys, this is probably the cream of the crop of like responses, you know what I mean? In this like montage that I sent you. I don't think I would respond angrily like a lot of these guys did. I think they got defensive.
Right.
Like, this my friend's making a pass at me, or like, I would think it's weird. I wouldn't think that like you're making sexual overtures or anything. I would be like, all right, well, okay, thanks, Skip. You know, I'd probably be not weirded out, but I would think it odd, and I would wonder why you did that. But I would probably say, well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I was pleased to find that that's what my reaction would be. In theory, you've never actually called to wish me sweet dreams, but I feel like I would respond well.
I thought about it. I actually thought about calling somebody completely different just to like test this out, but I didn't. Ultimately, I didn't. So I'm gonna do a weird little tangent, and if it doesn't work out, we can always cut it. But my stats class this week, because we finished the AP exam, we're watching Moneyball, which is like the only movie with statistics in it, where statistics is kind of the hero. But you know, there's the scene where the statistician is Jonah Hill back in his glorious days of super bad and that period, and he's talking about what gets people to win games, because all these old guys are in a room trying to pick out new players, and they're like, oh, he doesn't have a baseball body, or his, you know, like he's got he throws weird, or these things, and they're not it's all just fucking superstitious nonsense, like all these ridiculous kind of things that people just start to believe over 30 years of watching stuff and picking out weird things that are important to them. But he's like, what we want to do is win games. And in order to win games, we need runs. And in order to get runs, we need to get on base. And it's like so simple. It's so simple. And I was thinking to bring this back to this whole conversation we've been having. This is just our intro. We've been doing this for an hour. About joy. And like, if the thing is joy, the thing that you want, what's going to bring you joy? It's going to be connections. It's going to be feeling these things with other people. It's not going to be bench pressing more. That's not going to, you might feel joy in that moment. You might feel proud. You might feel healthy, which is also going to help you be happier. There are a lot of nice things about some of these things. But if the goal is joy, manliness isn't going to do it.
Not at all.
If the goal is to not feel lonely and not feel crapped upon manliness isn't gonna be the thing. To the where in that New York Times article, one of the guys that he was holding up, that's kind of an icon of manliness. The guy's whole thing is about suffering and solitude, which just sounds like embracing the problem, you
Right.
know?
Well, and I don't briefly on that article again. I don't see any connection to spirituality with that. Like, how is that? How does
Mhm.
being manly affect your belief system at all? Like, I don't get how people can draw that connection.
Well, I mean, I think manliness is in some ways, and I know in this one it's actually connected. In the other article, it's actually connected to the Russian Orthodoxy Church. I think in some ways, and I don't mean to like denigrate religion by saying this, manliness has become in some places a stand-in for religion as the simple answer. Where there isn't, these are not people that want to consider spirituality. They want their easy answer. They want to know what to do to fix the problem. And the real thing is that if you want to be brave, if you want to be manly, if you want to have courage, if you want to be strong, that's all about tackling these hard questions and just lifting a truck like that. Congratulations. I'll clap for you.
I mean, that's
But
pretty
like
cool.
it is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. But the only thing that you can do now is lift a
Lift a
truck.
truck.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you better at finding meaning in your life or finding
Right.
connection with people or interacting with people. And like those are the hard things. Those are the things that I think if we've been searching for something that's really manliness, but I also would go back to this is just what adults do, even women. Like tackling the hard things is what makes you an adult, man or woman.
Well, and I think, and we'll get back to Moneyball, but going back to this Orthodoxy Church, is these
Yeah.
people are, and not just the church, like any sort of group where men are complaining about shit. Anyone, any group where anybody's complaining about anything, they're finding connection in a grievance, and that goes
Mhm.
all the way back to what we were saying. Is
Right.
rather than identify this negative thing that I'm fixated on, I'm just diving deeper into it. And going back even further with Donald Trump is like, rather than growing in a positive way, he's just doubled down and grown in a negative way. You know what I mean? And I feel
Sure.
like that's what this church is about. That's what these, blanket manosphere groups are about.
Mhm.
They're just, they're finding connection, metastasizing around these isolating ideas that they've got. So bring me back to Moneyball though. What were you?
The whole point of Moneyball was just that people get people, not to go too far down the analogy. People don't keep their eye on the ball. Like if the goal is happiness, if the goal is feeling connection, then like lifting weights to heavy metal music isn't the thing. Like
Right.
if that's something that you find deep friendship and connection through with somebody through, then yeah, that can be a part of it. But that isn't the solution. The solution is that friend. The
Hmm.
solution is talking and touching and making connections and finding a level of intimacy that you're missing and people are going to stigmatize the word intimacy because it's going to be like, oh, that's gay. Like intimacy is something you do with a woman. No, intimacy is something, it's something that like I've always had a lot of acquaintances, but a lot of people I wouldn't call good friends because I never felt that really deep connection with. They were people that I hung out with, and the people that were my friends are the people that I'm not having sex with, but I'm intimate with.
Yeah. Right.
I'm
Right.
I'm intimate with,
Yeah. I think a good
Uh,
a good illustration of that in my paramedic school, in one hands-on like lab situation we were doing, they were showing us how to restrain a patient. So like one of the students was on a stretcher, and like we all restrained his hands and his feet for like a psychosis issue that might occur. And when he was restrained, he's a 19-year-old kid, 18-year-old I think at the time. He couldn't do a thing about it, and with everyone watching, I tickled him from his abdomen up to his armpits, and he was just like thrashing around, and it was funny, you know what I mean? It was like, and I
yeah,
I, I regard that as intimate. It doesn't have to be like putting your arm around someone and holding them close.
right.
Like it's contact. It's funny. He was laughing.
Yeah.
We were laughing. It was fun.
Well, Carlos, I think it's time, speaking of intimacy, for us to fall in love.
I can't wait.
So let's go back to our 36 questions. We're all the way up to question number 6. And my question for you is, if you were able to live to the age of 90 and retain either the body or the mind of a 30-year-old for the last 60 years of your life, which would you want?
Live up to 90 and retain either the body or the mind. So I'd have a 90-year-old mind, but a 30-year-old body, or I would have a 90-year-old body with a 30-year-old mind. That is a
Yep.
difficult question. Right away, I'm like, no, I'd rather have a 30-year-old mind, but like, you can't move around. That would almost be like a prison if you're
Right.
if you're stuck in a 90-year-old body with a youthful mind. But on the other side, if you've lost your mind at 90 and you've got a 30-year-old body, well, you could be quite the handful for anybody around you, anybody who's taking care of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess just to maybe keep this a short answer, I'd probably go with a 30-year-old mind and just like roll the dice that I'm not going to be enfeebled and I can actually still get around and do things for myself. What about you?
So I am going to cheat a little bit because there's more recent research about the mind and how it ages. And there's been a long time that the studies kind of said, oh, well, you have cognitive decline as you get older. But actually, more recent research shows that that doesn't really happen as long as you keep active. In the past, they were basically comparing different cohorts. So like people that were literally 60 and 70 and 80, but it wasn't like the same generation. They weren't doing a long-term study to see. And it was just like the ones 10 years ago weren't educated as much.
Mhm.
And like if you keep active, if you take care of your mind, barring like dementia or Alzheimer's, which, can happen. But like as far as there's no process by which as you get older your mind has to fall apart as long as you
Mhm.
take care of it. So I'd have that 30-year-old body for sure. I'd take that deal now. I'd take that deal as a 46-year-old. I'd be like 30-year-old body, yes, thank you very much.
That's so funny. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm still kind of up in the air about it, but like, yeah, I mean that is cheating because you're adding in some factors. But like,
Yeah.
if I were gonna be, yeah, I don't know, man. I think I'd still go with the mind because you can still be in rolling. Look at Stephen Hawking, who
Yeah.
I'm not saying his quality of life was top notch, obviously, but like
Right.
that guy was a brilliant physicist, and I mean, he could blink. Like I think
Yeah.
that was his thing. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it'd be nice to have a 30-year-old body again, because yeah.
I'd take the 30-year-old body just like that. Yeah, I feel really confident that I'm going to be able to keep my brain fresh. Like I really love like learning and puzzles and all those things, and I think I can do it. I know I can't with my body because my body's falling apart. But I'm trying. I'm trying to get it back together.
See, dude, I have the exact opposite sort of idea of how I'm going to age or how I am aging, because my brain is definitely slowed down. I see it. I feel it. Look at like,
Mhm.
even when I was living in Prague, and I'm like, how do you play mahjong again? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. I think that sort of laziness, because obviously I knew how to play the game, but
Right.
I was too lazy to like retain it. And
Yeah.
I think that kind of laziness might catch up with me because my body, I've always responded very, very well to exercise. I don't think I'll be unable to move around when I'm an older person, much older person, but I do worry about cognitive decline.
Yeah.
I'd like to not. I think there I am living negatively, thinking about it.
Yeah.
And you really, when it gets, you practicing what I preach here, when it gets to be a serious issue, it isn't that easy to really change the way you think about something. But
Yeah.
I think about like my grandmother had Alzheimer's. My father has early onset. No, I don't know if it's early onset. He's got the beginnings of dementia. Didn't nothing at all on my mother's side, but on my dad's side there was some of it. So
Yeah.
it's in the blood. Yeah, I do. But again, going through like college again at 45. I made a joke just the other day. Like I feel like I've added a few years of cognition to my brain because you have to be on, and if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to pass the school. I mean, and so
Yeah.
yeah, I think I've added it. I added myself a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about. Like, I mean, I would be the first to say I'm not as sharp as I was like in my mid 20s when I was in college and when I first got out of college and was doing stuff. But I'm just, like college is a different time, man. You're doing a lot of stuff and you're learning a lot of things. And so like outside of that experience, you have to really push yourself to be in that situation to kind of be sharp. But I've been tackling that more and more, and like I feel like okay, I'm keeping sharp enough. I don't think I'm gonna have a problem, barring some disease or
Right.
something. But yeah, my body, I've always struggled with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little. No, I wouldn't even say heavier because I'm not heavy at all. But like, I'm a little squishier than I have been probably ever. And I think back on like how the body type I'd always strived for. I was never. I didn't have like body dysmorphia or anything, but I was always sort of like, no, I still have this little bit of skin on my belly, and I want to like firm it up, sort of thing. Now I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that little bit of skin from when I was 32. You know.
Yeah.
All right, Skip. Well, as we round out this episode, I would like to know what is bringing you joy this week.
So, in keeping with what I was talking about earlier, and you being the architect of my joy now, the light of my life. I have been talking about wanting to build things forever. My grandfather was a carpenter. I never learned anything. My dad never learned anything from him. I never learned anything from him. And I was fairly handy around the house. Like I can figure out how to put things together. But I've wanted to like woodwork and build something for a while. So I've been like spending a couple hours today trying to find some way to get like just a beginning level of carpentry or woodworking or furniture building into my life. And I'm feeling like I might have some avenues. It might take a while, but I feel like I'm gonna make it accessible, and it's something I've wanted to do for a while. And maybe maybe I won't like it, but I feel like I'm gonna like it, and I really am excited to give it a shot. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna build something sometime.
When are you gonna start? Do you got a plan? Are you gonna build furniture? Are you gonna like carve a toy, or what's going on?
I would love to build something like some furniture, but it might take a while because Prague's a little bit. There's not. I can't find a maker space. I haven't been able to find a maker space. We obviously don't have a place where I can like build in our house, and I'd have to buy tools. And I'm okay with buying the tools. I looked at a furniture building class online where you can watch videos, and I was like, oh, adding up the what it would be for the tools. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That's okay. I could do that and build like a little shelving unit or something like
Right.
that. But I really just need to find a place to do it. And so I'm starting to like think of just how I can make these things happen and fitting them into my life. There's also a guy in Prague apparently that's an English carpenter, and I found him on the web. He's got like a Facebook page, and I was thinking about writing him and just being like, do you need an old man apprentice? I'll help you like do stuff and just for learning and maybe a space to work in.
That'd be fun.
So
That'd be a lot of fun. It
yeah,
could be a good connection and
yeah.
possible friend avenue as well.
And AI can't do it. Um, yeah, but I might if I'm gonna do that, I might do it after summer because we're gonna be gone for a month this summer, and I don't want to be like the flaky guy.
Right,
It's
right.
like, hey, I wanna do this thing. By the way, I'm gone for a month. So yeah,
This will be a longer conversation for later. But where are you
yeah,
guys going?
we're going to the U.S. for a month.
Oh, okay, okay. Nevada.
Nevada,
Yeah.
California. Well, I guess pretty much Nevada. I don't think we're going to California really. I will for a couple days.
I don't want to. I don't want to. Again, like we're so over time right now. But like, I'd like to know what your youngest's relationship is with the U.S.
He doesn't really have one. Like he doesn't. He only is vaguely. I mean, he's aware that he's an American, but he doesn't really have a lot of connection to it.
Right.
He's been there a few times. I guess we lived there for part of a year, but he was like 2, so he
Yeah.
doesn't remember it. He also gets confused between being English and being American
Right.
because
Right.
the other people here that speak English are often
British.
Brits.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really know. Like he knows the flag and stuff like that, and he knows who's president and things like that because of the vitriol dripping from the walls in the house. But yeah, he doesn't really have a relation. Even the older one. I mean, he moved here when he was 4, so he
Right.
doesn't really have a good memory of it either.
Well, a joy for me this week. Are you done with your joy?
I'm never done with my
No.
joy. Well,
Yeah, I
yeah,
like it.
I'm done. I'm done. But yeah, what is your joy this week? I'm excited to hear.
Let me think here. I've got lots of joys, I suppose. I'm trying to think of which is the best one. Most of it's, I guess, tied into starting a new job. I'm joyful that I'm not a quaking little chihuahua that I thought I was going to be on this. I mean, I am definitely nervous. I've got my first shift coming up in a couple of days, where I'm going to have to wear my big boy pants and be a paramedic. But I'm not as nervous as I was going into it. I'm also joyful, like on my times, and it could also be because I was so stressed out during the first few shifts that I had, where I was always thinking about Jody and like the dogs, and I just could not wait to get back home and like love on my dogs. It sounds so silly, you know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like I was excited to see, my family and that stuff. It's
That's
nice to
lovely.
feel. It's nice to feel that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess my overall though my joy is, I'm really looking forward to starting this new chapter in my life, and making some money, making some friends, having some good and bad experiences, and growing from it all.
Well, and I just want to say that I'm also thankful that you're not a Chihuahua. I thought that's where you were going to end at first, and it's like that's solid. That's solid.
He's joyful that he's not falling apart.
Yeah. Did you ever see the old Steve Martin SNL skit where he's saying what he's thankful for on Thanksgiving?
No, I never did.
Oh man, it's great. It starts off like really reasonable and it moves towards stuff like that. Like, I'm thankful that I have a nice house to live in. I'm thankful that, and it goes, he's like, I'm thankful that children don't burst into flames when you say the number 4. It's very funny, classic Steve Martin.
That's a good Steve Martin impression, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I actually had in high school, I had a speech and debate teacher who said if I put on a Steve Martin stand-up comedy routine for the school, he would give me an A for the rest of high school. And I was too afraid to get on stage and do it. But yeah, I could knock out like whole Steve Martin bits.
On a completely irrelevant note, tied into what you were just saying, are you if you were to identify as a Steve Martin or a Martin Short, which would it be?
Steve Martin.
I'd be a Martin Short, I think. I guess
that explains so much.
I mean, I think Steve Martin is absolutely brilliant, and like he's the kind of comedian you just look at and you just burst out laughing. But like Martin Short, I can't look at that guy without like laughing. He's just so funny.
He's a funny little Keebler elf.
He's a little guy. Thanks for joining us. New podcasts every week. If any part of this show has resonated with you, let us know at outsidethemanosphere@gmail.com. And please like, subscribe to the podcast, or recommend it to a friend. We hope you'll come back. Say ciao.
Ciao.
All right,
nailed it.
Cool. We got it. That might make its way into the final cut.